SMOLEGents is Hugging Face's AI agent open source framework that was released in early 2024. Right now on GitHub, it's sitting at around 24.1k stars, so it has popularity. And one of the reasons to use this AI agent framework is its simplicity. First off, the library is built in under 1,000 lines of code, and in just a few lines of code, you can create your first agent. And being that is from Hugging Face, you have access to Hugging Face, and now they have over 2.2 million models that you can choose from, going from image, text to text, visual question answering, video to text. I mean, there are just so many types of models that you can choose, and you can try them out here. Okay, so let's begin creating our first agent. So in your IDE, I use Cursor. The first thing you're gonna do is pip install small agents. I already have installed, so it's already going to be completed, but this may just take a few seconds. It is a small library. Like I said, that's one of the things that they rely on whenever you create these agents. So here I have our first example, and as you can see here, I have actually just 5 lines of actual code here, and one of them is printing out the result. So what we're doing is we're just importing the code agent and an inference client model. The code agent is important to know because what SMOLEGents does is they actually execute Python code for the output. And we'll see what that means whenever we actually run this, because it's pretty verbose and lets you know what it's doing. So we just set the model to the default model is Qwen 3 next 80 billion parameter thinking model that you get to try out for free, basically from Hugging Face. We're going to create an agent that doesn't have any tools right now, but they're going to just pass in the model. And again, this is a coding agent. You'll see what that means. And then we say agent.run and then just calculate some of numbers from 1 to 10. And then we're going to print out the result. Now to make this work, you will have to go to Hugging Face. You can create a free, you can sign up for free. So you have a free login. Then once you do that, you will also need to pip install Hugging Face. And now we need to log in. So you can say hf auth login. Okay, and then enter here. You can see that says enter your token. Input will not be visible. So we're going to click on this link to go to get our token. You're going to enter your, that is not my password. That is a random password I chose. So I'm going to enter my password to log in. And then from here, you can see I had created one recently, and I also created one back in January. So let's go ahead and create another one. So create a new token, just give it a name. We can call this YouTube Small Agents. We want to make sure that we can have it make calls to inference providers and make calls to your inference endpoints. Okay, and you can click on some of these others. I wouldn't worry too much about that. And then at the very bottom here, just click create token. So I'm going to copy this. When I click done, I'm going to come back to my IDE, going to paste that in, press enter, and we can just print yes. Okay, it says the token is valid and we are good to go. So now we can run this. So you're just going to simply say, I'm going to go into my course here that you will have access to all this. Will be in my GitHub. So I'm going to say Python 01 first.py. What it's going to do here is just going to show you, I mean, the output here is pretty good. So it gives you the model, what it's doing, and it's executing parse code. Some result equals some range of from 1 to 11, and it's going to print out the final answer, which is 55. So what it's actually done here is executing parse code. So the code agent actually ran code to execute the prompt that you gave it. And by the way, all of this will be in my GitHub with some more explanation in the README, and this will be in my free school community for you to use. Okay, next I want to go over tools and how to create your own and use ones that come with SMOLEGents. So here in this example, we're importing everything the same, but we're also importing DuckDuckGo search tool. I'll give you a link for all the tools that come with SMOLEGents. But with this agent, we have a code agent again. We're just passing in a tool this time and as a function, and then we're just giving it the same model. And we're just going to say the result was the current weather in Paris. So let's see what this looks like. Okay, so what is the current weather in Paris? Again, it's going to use the same default model. I will show you how to use a different one. Okay, so whenever we ran this, as you can see, it's using the same default model again. And what it's going to do is it's going to execute code for this tool to go search for the current weather in Paris with DuckDuckGo. So here we go. Executed parse code is that there was a web search function within the tool, and they just passed in the query current weather in Paris, and they printed the results. Okay, so now that they printed the results, the next step is it's going to try and parse all this to give us an accurate temperature in Paris right now. In which you can see here is it created more code, and I think that this imported the regex library, and then it created more code to end up printing out the results. Now, the problem with this is that it did not actually find a temperature in the results. So when we come up here, I don't know if any of these results actually gave us a temperature for Paris. And that is something that could happen, right? Because it is creating code to execute based on those functions. So you want to have something that's a little bit more deterministic whenever it gets those results, and then actually print out the result that you want, because I ran this before and it did actually give me the weather back, the current weather in Paris. You just happen to see a run where it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. Okay, so now what if we wanted a custom tool and we wanted to use a different model that actually wasn't even a part of Hugging Face? Because whenever you use Hugging Face and you have the free sign up, you do only have a limited number of inference costs that you can use to actually use some of their models that you want for free. Okay, so how you do this is that you're going to import the Light LLM model from SMOLEGents. Light LLM is very popular for giving you access, being an access gateway for different providers. So we're going to say light model. We're going to create light model object. We're going to pass in the model ID, the temperature, and we're going to give it an API key. So this means that I went and got my open API key from OpenAI and passed it in a .env file right here. So the task is, I basically want to search for text to video, and how it's going to do this is that I'm going to have it check for the most downloaded model based on that type of model from Hugging Face. Okay, so in order to make a custom tool, we are going to import the tool from the SMOLEGents library. Just make that as a decorator. And then here is just the function most downloaded model is next iteration tool. So basically the same function up here. I'm just going to print this out twice so that you can see that it's going to do it once here, and then it's going to execute this tool within the code agent and it will give us the same result. Okay, so what agent.run, the same agent way that we've been executing, is giving me the name of the model that has most downloads in this task on the Hugging Face hub. Okay, now I'm just going to run this. Okay, and so now you can see it's now showing us that we're using the Light LLM model and we're using GPT-4 so it is successfully doing that for us. Okay, and so what we've done here is executed this code. So the model download tool, right? So this is the model download tool that it used, and the execution logs, right? So this means it now executed, it printed this out, and then the final answer was the same one. It was the WAN 2.2 diffusers model. Okay, so this is the most popular text to video model on Hugging Face right now. Now, with this and the way SMOLEGents works, where it executes code for you, creates code, it can create code, execute the code, or use your tool code and execute that on your machine. And that's actually the problem, is it's executing it on your machine, and that is not recommended because you could have potentially code could be executed that you don't want to have executed, right? So it's recommended that you always execute something like a Docker instance, right? You could execute a Docker, or in this case, we are going to use it in a sandbox called E2B. So e2b.dev, what you can do here is you can sign up for free, which is what I've already done. And what this is going to do is whenever it goes to execute the code, it's going to spin up a server here as a sandbox server. It's going to execute the code here, and then it'll give us back the results on our machine, or my local machine here. And so that way it is much safer, and that is the recommended way. So once you sign in on the left-hand side, go to API keys, and you can just go ahead and create another key, and then you'll go ahead and copy the actual dev key. You'll come over here to .env, and you'll paste that as an E2B API key equals, and then just paste that right here. And now we have to install one more thing. We have to pip install this specific E2B library from SMOLEGents. And so what's happening here is we are, I'm using the Light LLM model to use my open API key. And what I'm doing is this code agent saying with code agent, passing in the model. And now we have a different parameter, executor type equals E2B. So this means that it knows it's not going to execute this on your local machine. It's going to execute it in this sandbox environment that we have given the API key for. So let's see how that works. Okay, so now it's saying initialize the executor. Hold on, the E2B is running. Okay, so now it's going to create code. So here it created the function, a Fibonacci function, to get that from to get the 100th Fibonacci number, and then so it's going to execute it and then print it out. And here is how it executed, and then this is the final answer. And then it finally said it's shutting down the sandbox, and it cleaned it up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to run this again, and whenever this starts, okay, so it initialized it. What you'll see here is there's there's one sandbox running right now. Okay, so it's running, it's executing, and you can see here the stats are changing. Here's one I just executed a minute ago, or 30 seconds ago, and here I did it again. But I just wanted to show you that it is giving us it's actually executing it on the sandbox here in E2B. Okay, so now for the final example, I want to show you, of course, how to use multiple agents with this framework. So this is a little bit more in depth. We now also have a tool calling agent and a code agent, and then we also are importing the web search tool. So I have a visit web page tool that is going to basically get the response from the URL. It's going to try to check to make sure that it's a 200 and not a 404. It's going to basically get the content and then return that content. So now we have a tool calling agent that has two tools, the web search tool that we have from Hugging Face, and then our own custom tool, visit web page. Okay, we're going to use the same model we've been using in OpenAI. Then we give it a max steps of 10. So at the most, we only want you to execute a total of 10 times. This is the name of it, and then just a description of what it does. You should always have like a doc string or description for your agents to help them out. Have the code agent. Now, there's a couple caveats to what I'm about to show you, right? So now there's this managed agent. So this code agent is going to have a few agents that it can take care of. So based on the prompt, it'll delegate and decide what executes what, basically whatever we're trying to have it do, right? Now, the thing with this is right now, small agents doesn't allow code to be executed through this agent if you have managed agents in that's not on your local machine, right? So I can't use E2B for this specifically. So this may not pertain to you if if you're like using something on a local machine, or you're not hosting this on a server somewhere, that you may not want to do this, okay? But we are, with this additional authorized imports, we're basically saying, okay, you can use the time, NumPy, and pandas library for this code execution. Now you will have to install those, so you have to install time, NumPy, and pandas. Okay, so what it's doing, kind of went through kind of quickly. So it has done the web search and the web search tool, and it's getting a bunch of markdown from doing some Google searches here. And then what it's going to do is, once it has all this information, it's going to create code to execute and give us the electrical power usage in gigawatts. Okay, so after it kind of got all the information, and now it created code, it's going to execute that. So here is code to kind of do some estimation, and then whenever it's finally done, we get this final answer of estimated power in gigawatts. Okay, with these companies. Okay, so this was a crash course on small agents, what it is and how it works. Again, this is a very small library. That's what they rely on, and they rely on creating code that will execute whatever it is that you're trying to do. And I highly recommend using E2B for your sandbox environment, because you really should never execute code on your local machine that is, even if it's just generated and it seems harmless, it's just not good practice, all right? You can even just use Docker if you don't want to use E2B. And again, all this will be in my GitHub and in my free school community, which you can join down below. This is it. There are more crash courses right here and more things for you to learn about AI agents.